Okay, my friends, shocker du jour for sure. I am going to show you the immune system actually functioning and failing. And this goes way beyond anything anybody has ever seen. I can guarantee you of that. And if you think I'm wrong, you tell me when you're done watching. Okay, hold on to your hats. This is going to be a biology lesson, an anatomy lesson, and a lesson in life. Now, what flows through your body? Well, blood. And where does it flow? It flows through arteries, which pump the good blood with all the nutrients and all the oxygen and all that, blah, 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 and it goes. There's no valves in here. It can go in and go out and go any which way it wants. But it has all these layers to protect the contents. Now, what is this? That's a vein. And what does a vein do? A vein brings back the used blood. After this pumps it out to all the tissue, it ends up coming back from the vein, through the vein, into the heart and get recharged up. Now, what is this? It's a lymph node. And I'm sorry, a lymph vessel. All right, and this lymph, it's just like these tubes, only it carries a fluid that is the fluid in your body that tries to kill invaders. And I can show you this, and I'll show you it. And when you see this, if it doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what could possibly blow your mind. Now, what do we see here? If you've ever listened to me talk about what the ancients used to call fascia, they called it tunica. See it? Tunica? Tunica intima. That's way down in the bottom, right around where the blood is. And then you've got the tunica media, which comes out here. There's another layer around that. And then you've got the outer coating, the venous valve. So you've got all of that, so you can twist and do all kind of things, and it protects the contents. And there's going to be membranes between every one of these layers, so you don't get invaded. The membranes are what keeps all the bad stuff out. I'm sure I've talked about it, or I will, in extreme amounts very shortly. Now, so now we know this is where the good blood comes from. It can go in this way, it can come back forth, and go in and out and everything. And when you die, it can just drain out of your body. This won't drain. This has valves. You see the valves? And the reason it has valves is because it's used blood. You don't want it going back down into the body. You want it only going one way. And that's it right there. The blood tries to come back, it just says, nope, can't do it. That's why I always show, and I say the veins seal off, and the arteries, they just run right out. Now, this is a whole different situation. Lymph vessels carry the fluids that they really don't pay that much attention to, I don't think. And what they do is they carry these toxic fluids to the lymph nodes, which this is one here. I'm going to show you this, all of this stuff in extreme detail, and then I'm going to show you it actually happening in a creature's body. All right, so let's continue on. All right, what is the lymph node? I showed you the lymph vessel. It's right, the tiny little thing over here. Now, these lymph vessels come in, and they bring in lymph fluids. See, they run all in here. They come in from everywhere. And this is a lymph node, and you have them in certain places in your body. They're not everywhere. They're in certain areas. And they filter toxins out of your lymph fluids. And then there's all these different things. You don't have to know all this special stuff. Just all you really want to know is what does the structure look like, first of all. All these little tiny fluid-filled vessels bring in the toxic fluids in there. Then inside here, enzymes and bacteria and so forth detoxify it. Now let's see, what's 7 and 8 here? Hold on. See, those are arterial capillaries and venous capillaries. Those are the tiniest little, well, actually that's in the blood vessel system. All right, but they're all part of the same package. This powers it, basically. You need blood and oxygen, and you need to bring in good blood and out the bad blood. But this is a system on its own. So this like powers this whole organ. But this stuff does its stuff all by itself. And I'm going to show you how it works. And again, I'm going to show you in an actual body of a creature. It's mind-bending, to say the least. So the nasty stuff comes in, it gets all filtered out, and then it goes back out into the lymph system to continue around and get some more nasty stuff. That's what it does. It's a filter. And when I say a filter, I'll show you it is literally a filter. And then inside, after it gets filtered, the bacteria and the enzymes do catalytic work on these toxins. And if it's not overwhelmed by toxins, you're good. But if you got so many toxins and you don't have the right bacteria to deal with them, then you get lymphoma, you get cancer, because you can't deal with them. They overwhelm the system, and I'm going to show you that happening as well. All right, you got to understand this. It's a little technical, but not bad, because I'm going to actually show you this in operation. So you have to know what you're actually looking at, what the walls look like, and so forth. This is the lymphatic vessels. All right, these are the little, they're like blood vessels. Now, they transport the lymph fluid from the periphery, so all around the body, to the point where the jugular vein and the subclavicular vein meet. All right, unlike the blood vessels, the lymphatic vessels are not much difference in diameter. They just stay the same size all the time. Blood vessels change dramatically. Now, also they are not distributed as evenly throughout the body as the blood vessels are, for example. So, for example, they are completely missing from the liver around the renal tubes inside the septi of the pulmonary alveoli, that's in your lungs, the little round balls in your lungs, and so on. However, they are particularly numerous inside the intestine and around the arteries. So what are we talking about? The lymphatic vessels. That's where they are a lot, and that's because that's the places you're going to get invaded, basically. The rest of these things are sort of sequestered off, your liver, your renal tubes, and so forth. But in your gut, it's a whole different story. Particularly numerous in the intestines and around the arteries. So wherever they want to be there to protect you. The lymphatic capillaries, whose diameter is equal to that of the blood vessels, have a much thinner wall, and at times the wall of that vessel it completely goes missing. That doesn't happen in the arteries or veins. They're completely. It's a tube forever. There's no walls missing, or you're bleeding internally. All right, they start from the blind. Well, this is all kind of crazy. You don't need to know all this stuff, because I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'm going to show you how that fluid flows and how there is no wall at all. And the reason there's no wall here and there is because it's going out to do its job. I'll show you. Okay, my friends, this is cutting edge stuff right here. You see this? This is an artery. These are the blood vessels coming off the artery, delivering their blood to all the tissues, and then they end up at the very end dumping the last little bits into the return, which is the veins and the lymphatic system. So this is what it looks like when it's actually pumping blood through here, using the blood, powering the body, and returning that fluid to be reused again. Okay, so let's just say this is a healthy body and the blood is flowing through and delivering all its stuff and picking up all the contents coming back. This is the first time this has ever been seen. Okay, now this is incredible photography. This is invasion of the tissue, and this is the lymph fluids coming out to meet those invaders, breaking through its wall. as it said, sometimes there's walls, sometimes there isn't. This time there isn't because it's trying to absorb all that stuff. Now what does it do as it absorbs it? It brings it into a fluid, and it brings that fluid down to these things, which are the lymph nodes. All right, this is a creature's body in action, fighting off invasion. Okay, so here it comes in. The lymph fluid is coming down to these lymph nodes, which are here. You see it's coming down, and it surrounds that lymph node, as I showed you in the actual lymph node in the medical book. Now, so this is a lymph node. Now, as I said, it's a filter. All of this stuff is nasty. And it's bringing all that nasty stuff. See the color change here? It comes over here. Now, and as I said, it is a filter. You see this? That's the filter right there. You see those little lines? Those filter out the big stuff, so it keeps the big stuff out, and it works on the little stuff and kills it and breaks it down, and then sends it off to, out to the urinary system or into the feces or whatever. But that's the filtration device, and this is a lymph node. All right, so what would happen if that got overwhelmed with toxins, which is the case here, and it's killing it, and this one here is also being killed? Same thing. It has the same structure. Okay, the same filters. It's just another lymph node. And it is also being overwhelmed by toxins. And so is this one, and so is that one, and then right down the line, they're all being killed. All right, this is not good. This creature's in terrible trouble. And this is the beginning of the invasion. It's all over this area here. What is that invasive chemical? Let's see if we can figure that out. Okay, so this level of detail has literally never been seen before. Nobody has ever seen exactly this level of detail and these filtration devices and all that. It's just never been seen before. And why is it seen here? Because it's on a giant creature. All right, and what is this giant creature? Here it is right there. And this before is what I showed you was all the blood vessels and the veins and the arteries and the capillaries. All right, and the lymph node, lymph system. And this is part of the same creature, and this is part of the same invasion. And the invasion that we see over here, we can see attacking the lymph nodes. And where did that invasion come from? What is this? This is a gigantic fish. All right, these are his scales. You see that little cut? I'm going to use my feather here to point these things out. These are his feathers. These are his scales. All right, you see how they're going this way? It indicates the fish is going that way. I've looked at this very carefully, and this fin comes down like this, and his tail flares out like this and comes back down and around. All right, this is sort of pushed off. There might be a little fin going in here too, but primarily what I want you to see is up here, the invasion of the tissue, the toxins, the reaction of the lymph to open itself up to try to respond. It just couldn't do it. It just got killed. And who was spitting all that stuff down? Well, it just happened to be this gigantic dragon. And here's his head, and there's all this stuff spitting down at him. And it rained down on his back and tried to kill him. That's what this dragon was out to do, was to kill this fish. Now, the dragon is also dead, so there is a thing written about this called Typhon, and he attacked the gods, and they changed themselves into animals because they were afraid of him. I don't blame them. Look at the size of him. He runs from here, which is his head, all the way across North Africa out here, where is his flared, feathered tail. And these over here are still dragon scales. These are his thighs, and he had huge coils. They run way out to here. These are coils. That's not sand dunes. You see this? Those are not sand dunes. Those are skin tags, just basically exactly like ostrich skin. All right, that's not sand dunes. Absolutely not. And this is exactly what was written, that his coils of a viper, they were all deteriorated now, excuse me, but they ran out from his legs, which were the shape of a human. They said the thighs. They said the thighs were of human size and shape, or of human shape. And after that, he had coils of vipers and ran all the way down and all the way over here. And his whole body runs across, and this is his tail, which has still, of course, dragon scales on his dragon scaled tail. Now, the reason I'm pointing out this one specific spot is because of this runoff. And you would say to me, Roger, why is that running off? And I would say, thank you for asking. And I would say, well, first of all, let's look at what we have here for materials. And they are quite obviously different minerals. And they are not just there, they run all the way across this dragon scaled tail. Now, why is all of this stuff like dribbling out of here? The reason is, this is a depression. Now, he has blood just like we all have blood, and the blood ran down and collected in here, and it just couldn't hold it like just normal, and it sort of effluent came out of there, the same as over here. And up in the front, it's just gushed out of him because, up there, he's got his heart and all that business is going on. And he cut his throat was cut right here. You see, this is all dragon scales too. You see, this is his throat. All the way up here. However, it got cut right there. And there's the red and the black. I always pointed out 100 zillion times. And it was cut straight across here with what they said in the ancient text, a great and mighty sword, which was Zeus, and the others say it was thunderbolts, whatever. It was not a good place to be if you were Typhon at that moment, because it cut his throat. And he's on the ancient maps with his throat cut. We're the only ones that didn't know about this. Now, as I showed you before, all the blood running out, that's just what is going on here. That's just blood. And that's why it's so you see how it's so slurpy looking. This is where his throat was. Right there, all the way running down. From here, right down into his stomach. Now, this is blood running off from the dragon's scales. So let's go in and look at those scales. All right, these are scales. And these have hinges in between every certain number of scales so they can move and bend his throat, basically. And they're the same kind of scales. They have, you see this? That's not an accident. They say, oh, those are flat irons. They're all over the place. I say, yeah, they're all over the place, and call them whatever you want to call them, but they're dragon scales. And very little response to that. So we come up his throat. And then this is where he spit the stuff out. But he didn't really spit it out. This is where it gets a little interesting. Again, here's his throat coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up, coming up, and then all that stuff comes out. And you first would look at it and say, you just spit it out at him. He's just spitting stuff out. But that's not the case. The throat, the beard. That's a beard, and that's his other beard. They all have beards. It seems to me they all have them. Quetzalcoatl has one. It seems they all have them. Now, this yellow stripe going all the way down appears to be the source of some kind of venom that's feeding right across here into these beards. You see this beard and this beard running right out of that venom spot, which is that yellow stuff runs all the way down his body. You see it all the way down, 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 all the way down to some nasty spot down here that makes dragon venom. All right, that's all I can take away from this. And look at this here, because I'm going to show you something else that's going to look very similar. You see what it's doing here? Something's mixing up there. Some nastiness is just getting all nasty mixed together, getting ready to go up and destroy things, and which it does very seriously. So it coming up, all the way up to his head, which his head is here, right here. He's got that big bumpy nose. He's got this red flared eye, and this is also written exactly to. He says it had a red flaring eye, and he was hissing and spouting and spitting great jets of fire against the gods who had changed themselves into animals. It's exactly what is written, basically word for word. Now, this is a great jet of fire. That's just enormous. Like, that's enormous. So, how did this stuff get made? How did this toxin get made? It's like a cocktail of some sort. I haven't really figured it out, to be honest with you, but it seems to be this and his nose are related somehow. Now look, we got something coming down here out of there, going over this way, and then up into all of this, whatever that is. Let's look at that close, because this is very, very exotic looking stuff. You see that? That's not your average backyard. All right, so that's the beard. Now, the other beard is here, and that's like a bazillion times worse. And here they both come out together, tied in together. Seems like, I don't know what's going on here, to be honest with you. However, again, something else happens with this beard. And what is that, Roger? Well, let's look at his nose right over here. You see this? He's spouting a jet of fire and flame and smoke, and that looks like fire and flame and smoke to me, which has now scorched the ground, apparently. Now, what happened, though? This is right at his tip of his nose. And look at this stuff running over here. You see, I follow the trails. What had happened? It come over to the beard. They're mixing together here, making some kind of other nasty cocktail. This is the third ingredient. And I mean, this is as nasty as it gets. I remember I showed you that green way down in his stomach. So they mix together somewhere from his nose to his beard. And then it comes down here, and it just gets nastier and nastier and nastier. And then it starts combusting. It looks like, it almost looks like it's in the mix of doing it right now, but obviously it's just laying here. I think it's dormant. I don't know. I really don't at this point. There's nothing gets crazier than what I'm seeing here. So it's coming down. This is nasty. Let's just get past the nasty. All the way down to where it starts to impact with the fish. There's his fin. All right, so now it's eating through and basically digesting the fish's fin, and finally it hit his vital flesh down here, which I showed you before. This changes basically everything we've ever been taught about geology and history right there. Done. If you don't believe it, I don't know what to say. But I'm showing you a pretty solid evidence to support my statements. Now, you can read about this in Apollodorus 1.6.3. It talks about Typhon attacking the gods who change themselves into animals. spewing a great jet of flame and fire from his throat, with his red flared eye, his head all flashy and streaming in the back. Now, there are other stories of Typhon here being, and it's said that he was so tall that his head often brushed the stars. Now, was that an exaggeration, or were the stars closer to the earth? I think that's a possibility, because these creatures can't live on this earth. How are they going to live here? Something was different back then. It is what it is now. I can't, I got to be honest with you. It really bothers me when people come up on my channel and start saying, the earth is flat, there's no way these animals could live. No, it's not flat. There is a space station. You can see the earth is what it is now. How these animals survived here, or did they come from outer space here? Because it said they were thrown to the earth. And it's amazing, the stories that are in Apollodorus. It's horrifying, and it's amazing. And that's, the funny thing was, Jesus basically said that. He said, search until you discover. And when you discover, you will be disturbed. And once you are disturbed, you will marvel. And I'm telling you, all that stuff is true.